Let me ask you to review, as you were playing defense here, and properly so. The president's economic record left this country with a financial crisis like we don't even know the bottom of yet. Is that the responsibility of the administration that left office January 20th or not?
Chris, there's no question the Bush administration left behind a bad recession for President Obama, just as we inherited a mild recession from President Clinton. As a result of the Bush tax cuts, the 2001 recession was very short, very shallow, and it was followed then by, as I said, record-breaking job creation.
Right.
What I'm worried about now is I think President Obama has taken a very tough, bad situation that he did inherit, but I think all his spending is making it worse. That's what troubles me. You listen to Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, today say that we need a second stimulus. Well, that's acknowledgement that the first one is a failure. This is what troubles me. We're pouring good money after bad, and I don't think Barack Obama has got it under control. We're still waiting to hear the specifics of his banking policies from his Treasury Secretary on what's going to fix the banks. The Treasury Secretary made an announcement 3 weeks ago with no substance and no details, and we're still waiting.
Okay. Let me ask you about the financial crisis which we inherited. Let me ask you another question. Do you believe that the administration made an honest case in taking us to war with Iraq? An honest case?
Yes. Yes.
Even though you corrected the record afterwards and said that they made a dishonest argument that we faced a nuclear threat.
Chris, how disingenuous are you? You can just roll back the tape from this interview.
You.
Chris, I said we were wrong. I didn't say we were dishonest. Dishonest is your word, Chris Mathews. We were wrong.
How did it happen if it wasn't done on purpose?
It was an intelligence mistake. We were all wrong. The United States was wrong. The United Nations was wrong. Egypt was wrong. Israel was wrong. Bill Clinton was wrong. George Bush was wrong. And don't forget, the CIA director under George Bush was the same CIA director, a Democrat, under Bill Clinton. Now, Chris, you're in a responsible position doing what you do. The problem is you told us this was a mistake.
You told us this stuff was all wrong. But see, Ari, you probably got in a lot of trouble for telling the truth back then by saying it was an inaccurate claim, an incorrect claim. You did so courageously, and you did so after we got into the war. Unfortunately,
George Bush said the same thing. He said the intelligence was wrong.
Okay, most Americans...
And then he had a commission study why the intelligence was wrong, so future presidents could benefit from change in the intelligence structure.
Let me go back to where we started, before we started quibbling here. On the main reasons why this president left...
But what's really troublesome is why you would twist my words. When I said we were wrong, you said I acknowledged we were dishonest. Chris, that reveals a lot over you and how you come with the guests who come on your show. When you can twist people's words like that. You shouldn't do that.
Just a minute. Thanks for the correction. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that you know for sure that those words were not confected to win the case for the war? That we went into that war with people who really wanted to push the evidence harder than they should have? That they were reckless in making claims that couldn't be proven afterwards, as you admitted?
Well, given the fact
were they reckless claims?
Given the fact that Bill Clinton also said that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, biological and chemical.
Nuclear weapons.
No.
Nuclear.
Nobody ever said
he had nuclear
except... No, Chris, we didn't. Dick Cheney made a mistake on one Sunday show and said nuclear, and he took it back. That's the only time anybody ever said it.
Over and over again, Condi Rice and the rest of you said if we didn't go to war with Iraq, over and over again we heard if we didn't go to war with Iraq, if we waited to hear evidence further, we would suffer a mushroom cloud. Condi Rice. The vice president went on Meet the Press and other programs again and again and again, threatening this country. If we didn't go to war with Iraq, we'd suffer a nuclear threat from them. There was evidence presented by your administration there was some sort of delivery vehicle that could deliver a nuclear weapon to this continent. That's what you guys claimed. That's how you got the middle-of-the-road people to back the war. And now you backpedal. Afterwards, you admit it was incorrect. Well, other people have different observations about how hard you pushed. But you pushed to get us in the war, and now you're backing out of it. Now you're coming back and saying, well, you were right even though you took it back.
Chris, well, we always said that we didn't want to let a smoking gun turn into a mushroom cloud.
What did that mean?
We never knew whether he had... We always said he does not have nuclear. I repeatedly said that. But he was determined to try to acquire it, just as he was determined to try to acquire biological and chemical.
Right.
And it's wrong for you to say that what we said was wrong when we acknowledged the intelligence was wrong, but then the inspectors who went over there after the war did report that Saddam had an active intelligence program to acquire biological and chemical weapons. He never stopped working on them. We were wrong that he had them. We weren't wrong that he was trying to obtain them. And that's why I believe, Chris, to this very day, that we should all be grateful that we've inherited, that Barack Obama's inherited a world without Saddam in it.
Okay,
the sanctions were full of loopholes. He ultimately would have had them. We were wrong when we said he had them, but it was only a matter of time, Chris.
And now we face Ahmadinejad in Iran with no buffer in the region, no threat to his power, no counterpower to him. He's all alone over there as a main threat to our country and to other countries in the region because we removed the only check on his power, which was Saddam Hussein. That's just as legitimate a strategic argument as the one you just made. But what you cannot continue to argue is there was any justification for saying there was a mushroom cloud facing us if we didn't go to war quickly. It was an argument for a quick rush to war, to jam us into the war as quickly as possible with the threat of a nuclear attack on this country. It was made very effectively. I was there at the time, Ari. I was challenging it at the time. And only afterwards did you say it wasn't a correct fact.
Chris, I repeatedly said from the podium, and you can find the tape and roll it for your audience, that Saddam does not have nuclear. We said he would try to obtain nuclear, and that's what we believe. Right. And we do know that he was trying to obtain biological and chemical. As for your argument about Ahmadinejad, you know, there are some people who believe in the legitimacy of dictator versus dictator, and that's how you have a balance of power around the world. I can't dispute that that is one strain of foreign policy. But when I look at it on balance, I'd much rather not have Saddam in the world. I'd much rather have Libya without its nuclear weapons. Much rather have Syria without its nuclear weapons that it was developing. Three nations, two of which were trying to develop nuclear, no longer have done so under George Bush's watch. I believe that's made for a much more safe and secure Middle East.
Well, the truly frightening argument you just made, the truly frightening argument you just made is anybody in the world we don't like is worthy of a war to take them out of power. And I don't believe that's a justifiable argument, morally, politically, geopolitically, or other. If we don't like a world leader, and there are a lot of them we don't like, we shouldn't go to war with them.
Yes or no, was there a war against Libya? The answer is no, and Libya no longer has nuclear weapons. They turned them in. They dismantled their program. Was there a war against Syria? The answer is no.
But your argument is that because we didn't like Saddam Hussein, we should have gone to war with him. That's your argument, not mine. That's the argument. Ari,
Chris,
agree
the
to
issue
disagree.
was, and I believe this still today, and of course you and I disagree with it, but after September 11th, having been hit once, how could we take a chance that Saddam might not strike again? And that's the threat that has been removed, and I think we're all safer with that threat being removed.
And I am glad that we no longer have an administration that uses that kind of argument. Thank you very much, Ari Fleischer. And the American people are happier, too. They are. I can assure you, we don't like that thinking anymore in this country. Coming up, President Obama.
We all know where you stand.
And you as well, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you,